Good evening, fellow armchair imagineers. It's your ghost host with the most, Tiki, here to engage in some haunted holiday hijinks by trudging through the catacombs and dusting off the cobwebs to recount our spooky selection of Halloween classics. So, light the jack-o'-lanterns, suit up, and grab the candy dish as we revive and recount tonight's spooky selection. The top 5 classic Treehouse of Horror segments. What happened to us, Kodos?
Thank you.
All right. Oh, LazerDude, this has been a long time coming up, man. How are you?
I'm good, although in honor of the Simpsons spooky credits that they change up every year, I am laser dead today.
Ooh, I like it. I like it. I'm gonna go with Tiki the Terrible. All right. So yeah, man, I gotta tell you, Treehouse of Horror, it's one of those things. It's like we've been doing this haunted holiday hijink stuff for quite a while on this channel. I think almost 10 years. If not going on 10 years. And like Treehouse of Horror has always been kind of like sort of a white whale for me because there's just so much to it, and I could never figure out like I always kind of wanted to take the easy road out and just kind of maybe cover Treehouse of Horror 5, which I'm sure you and I are both going to have segments on that in here. But I think the more interesting approach would just be to kind of see our individual lists. I always like doing lists like this because I always like having a co-host on board. I always find that to be a really engaging activity because it's really interesting to me how our tastes can differ, what segments we're gonna have on that we're both gonna have on our list, which segments you'll put on and I'll put on, and vice versa that we wouldn't have put on.
See which one tickles our spooky bone the most.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I am excited. Do you have anything?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say that, like, I'm not actually too much into the whole spookiness. I don't really like too many horror movies or anything. But The Simpsons has always been something that I always like to see their Halloween specials. They're, for the most part, really creative, and even the ones that, as you go on down and down the seasons, that don't turn out to be as great, there's usually at least one good laugh in there that you can always count on. There's always some creative thing that they're going to do with it. And so it's good to go over here and see which ones are the best of the best, and just talk about them. And I'm happy to do it.
All right, Atomic Beast says you can't have Halloween without Treehouse of Horror. Hi guys, hey Atomic Beast, happy to have you. Indeed, this is going to be a fun one.
Imagine those poor souls that had to live without the Halloween Simpsons special before. They didn't even know what Halloween really was until The Simpsons came along.
So just to lay out a couple ground rules for this thing. Number 1, we have to only pick one segment per episode, so we can't just front load our entire list of Treehouse of Horror 5 segments. And number 2, it's going to be only Treehouse of Horror 1 through Treehouse of Horror 7. We figured that was the golden age. So you might not necessarily, obviously with it being a top 5, you're not going to see a segment from every Treehouse of Horror on our lists. But, hopefully we'll get a widespread.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows the golden age of Simpsons has, like, the best episodes and the stuff that really matters. And I think that still holds true to the Treehouse of Horror, because I believe you're right. It peaked at Treehouse of Horror 5, and then 6 was pretty good. And then after watching episode 7, I was just like, Well, we're starting to go on the down roll, the
Yeah,
downhill
yeah.
spiral. We peaked, but you know what? There's still a lot of good ones to pick from there. There's 3 segments every single episode, so it should still be a fun one to figure it out.
Okay, so Z and K is in the
You,
comments. I very much agree with him. He says it seems like the worst segments are generally ones that stray from horror parodies and just are generic pop culture parodies. Absolutely. Plus, when they explain what their parodies are, not to be clever, like, shh, do you want to get sued? or or any of the lazy sound like not using joke, like Steve Mobs and Maple. Yeah, totally agree. Or Maple. Totally agree, Z and K. Totally agree. I remember one of the Treehouse of Horror segments early on that kind of like broke the formula for me was the Harry Potter one. I think it was called Whiz Kids.
I didn't see that one.
I think it might have been like Treehouse of Horror, like I don't know, like 9 or 10 or something like that. But all right. Anyways, we're not here to talk about the downfall of Treehouse of Horror. We're
No,
here to talk about the best of the Treehouse of Horror.
keeping it positive, yeah.
All right. So, do you want to go first, or should I go first? How do we do this?
I
Poe
can
Dameron.
I can go first. You can have, since your channel, you can have the piste resistance of the last bit.
Oh,
My
sounds
number
good.
5 of the Treehouse Horror segment is the Monkey Paw episode,
Ooh.
Lisa's Nightmare in episode 2.
Okay, I'm really glad you picked this one because this was kind of like on the precipice. It was definitely like in the honorable mention tier for me.
Like the first, this one I think is the best out of the first couple of episodes, like the first 2 episodes. There's a few shorts in here that was like, I'm not really feeling like in the same episode Homer's Nightmare. I was like, so he becomes a robot, then he doesn't become a robot. But at least his Nightmare of the monkey paw, I really thought it was creative. There's a lot of fun gags where Homer gets the monkey paw and he's like, Homer, where'd you get that? Oh, it's right over there. And it is gone. It's like, oh no, wait, it was over there. It's like, hey, it's
You'll
just
be
like
sorry. No, there's a
and
lot of classic stuff. Yeah, of
Lisa
course.
wishes for world peace, and then Homer's like, Lisa, that was very selfish of you.
Right.
And then to me, okay, I'm gonna say something controversial here. So like, hang on to your pen. I do not really care for Kang and Kodos all that much.
Hmm.
Uh, I know, it's crazy. Like they just to me they just laugh too much. And there's not enough good jokes. But I love them in this episode where they're alien invaders and they're armed with like a stick and a slingshot, and that's how they take over the world because they got rid of all their weapons. And that is hilarious. And they scared off by Mo, who just gets a board with a nail on.
Yes. Yes. Oh God, that's great.
Um,
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you. This one's really really solid for sure. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my favorite gag in the episode, which is Turkey's a little dry. Turkey's a little dry.
And then of course Flanders. Yeah, one of the things that I will say is that the main thing that I think completes a good Treehouse of Horror episode is if the ending pays it off. Because a lot of times they're rushing, they're going quick, that they just throw in some half-arsed ending and then it's just over. Nothing really all that special. But this one I really like because what happens? He gives it to Flanders, and of course the unselfish guy just makes everything right with like one wish, and then Homer's just pissed at him.
Stupid, sexy Flanders. All right, let's see. Z and K Atomic Beast says, I remember the Monkey Paw episode. There are a few cartoons that dwell just the plot, like I Am Weasel and XXX Holic, which I have no idea what that is, but that's fine. Z and K says Mo scares them off, yet Flanders gets all the credit. Poor
Yeah.
Mo is honestly like one of my all-time favorite Simpsons characters. I love Mo.
Yeah.
Atomic Beast says the former IR baboon uses his paw, and the latter has the paw implied cut off of your hand and uses it as a replacement. Ooh. Okay, my number 5. This was a middle school staple. I believe like my art teacher would show this to us, my English teacher would show this to us. So I very much associate this with school, but in like that kind of like very positive, nostalgic kind of way. And I also think it's genuinely creepy, and I think it set the mood and atmosphere really well right off the bat. I'm gonna go number 5, The Raven from Treehouse of Horror 1.
Raven. Okay.
Yes. I think The Raven is honestly maybe one of the best animated segments in Simpsons history. I think it's really, really great that they the whole thing is basically based on storyboard gags. And just the combination of the James Earl Jones narration, the vocals, or I'm sorry, the visuals, which I think are both funny in some ways and then genuinely kind of creepy in other ways. I think it just strikes that really perfect balance. Dan Castellaneta, man, he absolutely he doesn't have many lines in this segment, but when he does have that segment where he just goes off and starts monologuing in the Poe dialect,
It's
freaking
so weird to see Homer speak so elegantly, but
I
it's
know,
so
but
funny.
it's great though. It's great because Castellaneta, I feel like, just absolutely nails it. So yeah, I will always have a soft spot in my heart for the Raven. I would say this is absolutely my nostalgic pick of the bunch, but my list would not feel complete without including this one.
Yeah, it's not on my list. I think it's because like poetry doesn't really do it to me. Like even with the parody of it, the only real moment that made me laugh pretty hard is when like he says, "Get beyond my chamber door," and he goes, "Nevermore," and he's like, "What you?" And it turns like into like split second. That split second turns into regular Simpsons joke. So yeah, it's not on my. But I respect it. I respect the pick.
Okay, so really quick, we have some comments here. Thanks for all the comments, guys. I really appreciate the engagement. ZK says, "Dope, stupid censor." Dan Castellaneta has such perfect range as Homer in anything. Indeed, indeed. He brings the wrath and fury and elegance that the story deserves. Well said, ZK. Well said. But this is nothing without James. This is indeed a disturbingly perfect narration. Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. James Earl
Yeah.
Jones, low key, just absolutely crushes the narration here.
Yes, yes, he does. I mean, you could if it's like if there was a short list of people that I could get to narrate my life, like like you saw in Adam Sandler's movie Click, where you put on commentary and James Earl Jones is narrating his life. I'm like, you get lucky if you could get James Earl Jones to narrate your life. It's like that would be a blessing. Shut up, don't you ungrateful douchebag.
Okay, so what is your number 4?
My number four. This one I think that it has a lot of really funny gags and a lot of gags that we still like use all the time. The Clown Without Pity, the one where it's basically the parody of Chucky with the Krusty the Clown doll trying to kill Homer as he buys it for Bart. There's there's a lot in here that like I don't like the ending. I think it's a little bit of a cop out. That's kind of why it's a little lower on the
You
list.
don't like the
But
Hank Azaria, oh, it's set to
it's
evil.
like the evil.
That is just
I
such a
kind of it's not
classic Hank
terrible.
Azaria delivery, man.
Yeah, it's not terrible. It's not terrible. It's just like I feel it's a little bit of a cop out, a little bit. Uh, but I love. There's so many funny gags. The That doll is cursed. Ooh, that's bad. My
That's
cat was a
good.
free Frogurt. That's good. The Frogurt is also cursed. Oh, that's bad. But you get your choice of topping. Oh, that's good. The talking conveys sodium benzenite. That's bad.
That's bad.
Can I go home now? That's great. But my favorite line, and I love this because it's just so funny, is like when the doll's trying to kill Homer and the family sees it this time. And so as he's rolling on the floor with the doll about to shove his face into the dog's water bowl, he says, "Larger doll trying to kill me, the toaster's been laughing at me." It's just like the quick extra line. It's like, well, while I'm saying stuff that nobody will believe, but now might get believed, let me also tell you that the toaster's been laughing at me. and it's so funny to me. I think the Krusty the Clown like doll could have been like a little creepier, I guess, but still for the jokes, this one has a lot of them that make me laugh.
Totally, totally. Okay. Let's see. The third episode has so many redub moments, most of the entire fourth season, which is a lot. I didn't know about the redubbing Z&K. That's interesting. Let's see. Z&K also says that Toaster always seems to have it out for Homer and Halloween specials.
Yeah,
Dad, it's in there
it's funny
again.
because I was thinking about that. It's like, yeah, it's like, yeah, yeah, it's always the Toaster's been laughing at him. He's sticking his hand in, sending him back through time. It's always a pain.
Okay, so my number 4, I'm not sure how popular of a pick this is going to be. I know it was super popular back in the day when it came out because it was really cutting edge. I'm not sure how much people respect it nowadays, but kind of like the Raven, I had to go for it just because like I was on the ground floor for it when it came out. I saw the hype and like it was just stunning at the time. I'm gonna have to go with Homer Cubed.
It's a good pick. It's a good pick. I respect the pick. I like it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I don't think this one has a ton of laughs, and I think that's probably the thing that people nitpick about it. But I think it's got enough funny moments. I think the bit about like the wasted animation budget, like him just standing there and burping, doing nothing, that's funny. Of course, the ending, ooh, erotic cakes, just classic. But yeah, I don't know. I what I like about this is that while yes, it is gimmicky in the sense of the 3D animation and everything, but it's still doing a Twilight Zone parody. And what I like about it is in the Twilight Zone episode that it parodies, you don't see the dimension that the person is stuck in. So in this, they really use the animation to go all out and really visually expand on the story that they're parodying. I really respect that. I
Yeah.
really because it's not just like showing off the crazy 3D animation, which in some ways it is for sure. And honestly, I do think that the animation does relatively hold up. Like it's not mind blowing like it was back in the
It's not
day.
Pixar, but that scene where he is walking through and turns from 2D to 3D is seamless. Like that,
Absolutely,
those
yeah.
seconds with him and Bart look so good that you can like pause frame by frame to go through, and it just looks
Yeah, I
so
just think the
seamless.
segment just has a very, very memorable cinematic quality to it. Like I said, I think with the 3D stuff, it's kind of like a landmark in TV animation. Again, I feel like the Raven and this are kind of more like my nostalgic, like respect historical picks, and then once we get further, it's going to be more personal taste.
You know what? Here's the thing I've always had to say is that when you're making a list of your personal picks, you don't have to justify it to anybody.
That's
You
yeah,
don't have
for
to
sure.
be like, well, this is what is like. Even if somebody absolutely hates Homer Cube. If this is your pick, then it's your pick.
All right, so Tom B says, "Funny how Simpsons Hit and Run is based on the animation models on Homer on Simpsons Cubed." Indeed,
Yeah,
David's
I
maybe
mean,
it still is a fascinating time capsule with the CGI. It's
yes,
like 2015 and Back to the Future too. Yeah, a little bit. It reminds me of a classic Windows screensaver. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's what it did remind me of too. Um, ever hear the bad
the
guy
Tron
Tron?
gag. The Tron gag's
No,
pretty good.
no, no,
Especially
no,
when
no,
I was
no,
watching
no.
it this
Yes.
time.
What?
Chief Wiggum says no like 3 times before saying yes, and then no again.
That's funny.
It counts to is like Chief Wiggum, Lisa, Frank, Chief Wiggum, uh, like Aunt Selma and Patty Wiggum saying yes, and then it's like it cuts to him like 3 or 4 different times, and in that whole thing.
Okay, so what's your number 3?
All right, my number 3 pick is The Devil and Homer Simpson.
Okay,
It's always
okay.
the person you least suspect. Uh, this one I think is just it has a lot of good jokes. Like Homer goes to hell and they try to torture him from making him eat all the donuts ever, and he wants more. He's, that is always hilarious. The design of hell is standout enemy. The fact that he can't fit into the portal right away, Flanders has to like pitchfork him into hell. That's really good. I also thought it was sweet, where it's just like that Homer's soul belongs to Marge because he gave it to her when they were pledged to be married. I also thought that was very sweet. I also love the jury was like what was it, like John Wilkes Booth. There was a lot of just fun. Oh yeah, the entire Philadelphia Flyers. Now I
Right,
don't know.
right.
That was the era of the Broad Street Bullies. Like I don't know if you know too much about hockey, but that
No,
was the
I don't.
like that was the era when like hockey had like a whole bunch of teams and not as much talent, so they had a whole. It was mostly like 80% bruisers, and the
Mm.
Flyers is all fighters that would beat the crap out of you. They were known as the Broad Street Bullies, and so they won a Stanley Cup basically by kicking the crap out of the other team. And so yeah, that call back to that made me laugh quite a bit.
All right, good pool for sure. Okay, my number three. You know what? In the heart of hearts, I have. It's like I want to be very predictable and just put the shinning at number one, which I know it's what you're probably going to do, and that's totally fine. I'm not judging you for it. But I wanted to be a hipster. I wanted to be original. I wanted to pull something from Treehouse of Horror 5 that wasn't the chinning. And in thinking about, like I love the butterfly effect episode. I love the one with the toaster. It's really damn good. It's got a lot of good quotes. It's got a lot of memorability. But the more I return to Nightmare Cafeteria, I have to go with that one as my number three. Uh Nightmare Cafeteria really, really sticks out to me is almost like the perfect melding pot between comedy and horror in the Treehouse of Horror
Yeah.
franchise. I think that like the stuff, like the sequence is just disturbing enough to truly get under your skin. I honestly
Oh,
think even more so as an adult than when I was a kid. Like just
I
like
I sorry, I just want to say I think that this episode is the scariest Halloween episode moment or like ever. Just because the casualness as they're talking about like eating the children and then like how like Skinner salivates over like Ooter and everything. And then the moment where like the kid drops the pen and he's just shivering in fear. He's like,
uh-huh.
attention. You're like, holy shoot.
And the fact that
It's
most people
really
see
it's
this one as like the third best of Treehouse of Horror 5 just goes to show how amazing Treehouse of Horror 5 is. It truly is one of the all-time best Simpsons episodes all around. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like I said, we need to just give a special shout out to that episode as a whole. The butterfly effect toaster
yeah,
episode is
yeah,
also amazing.
yeah. No, yeah. If this was a list of the top 5 episodes, Treehouse of Horror 5 definitely there because yeah, like
The Treehouse of
I
Horror
mean
5 is like I think far and away the best Treehouse of Horror.
yeah, spoiler I guess a little bit, but this one and the time travel one is not on my list, but both of those are just very solid. As I say, this one is the scariest out of all the Halloween episodes. And the time travel one doesn't really feel too much like a Halloween thing. Like there's nothing really
Right.
scary about it, except for maybe I don't know the Flanders future. But it's very funny. I like the moment in that episode where Homer sneezes on the dinosaurs. And then, like they all die around him. He's like, "This is gonna cost me." It's just like
Stupid bug,
the
you
dread
go
of
first
feeling like,
now.
yeah, I must not do anything. Buggy, you go switch now. Yeah, is like
Oh,
all three of their episodes.
I wish I hadn't killed that fish.
I don't know why he rhymes there. That's great. And of course, the ongoing theme in this episode of like Willie getting stabbed in the back with an axe, all three episodes. That is
Oh yeah,
hilarious.
absolutely,
Oh, I'm
absolutely.
really bad at this. Yes, Z and K. The line that you said was like, "Yes, I think I'll start by, as you always said, eating your
Eating your
shorts." Ugh,
shorts.
that is like
I
threatening, but an
really
amazing
think
callback.
that Skinner has some of his all-time most memorable moments in this thing. I really do. Um, like he is both menacing and hilarious at the same time. It's I don't know.
Absolutely.
It's a tour de force as far as I'm concerned. Like it might not be. It's probably the least funny out of the Treehouse of Horror five segments, but I think it's definitely the most intense and scary.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's some funny moments like
You
the
might
different
say
meals.
there's a little ooter in all of us.
You
In
might say
fact,
that we
one
cooked
might
them up.
say we're actually eating ooter right now.
Wait, no, scratch that. Yeah, it's great. All right. My number two is
Yes.
actually one that we've already talked about. It's Homer Cubed.
Okay.
I
Okay.
really like Homer Cubed. I didn't want to say too much back because I want to say something. I think there's a lot of funny jokes. Like I love how like Homer would rather go into an unknown dimension than spend time with Patty and Selma. Uh, I love the different ways that the world looks and how he's like just speaking out and he's like I don't know. I love the look. I love the episode. I love the effects. It's all really fun. Like he's like, well, better make the most of it. And all he does is just burp and like maybe does he fart? Uh, it stands out to me as a weird world episode. I love that as he dies, he's like, okay, I'll jump, and then he immediately whiffs and just dies or like goes into our dimension, obviously. But yeah, it's one of those episodes that always has a near and dear place in my heart, and so that's why I have it all the way at number two.
Cool. Cool. All right, and I think this is going to go by quickly because actually both of my top two we've already talked about in the same order. Weirdly enough, so my number two is going to be Clown Without Pity. Yeah, for pretty much the same reasons you listed. I think that the opening, the whole that's good, that's bad, it's classic. I think just getting that little just that little bit of kind of like the gremlin style yeah, I think it's interesting how both the monkey's paw and this episode to a certain extent did a gremlins parody with the shopkeeper a little bit in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, I am just in love with the idea of just you know Dan Castellaneta as Homer and Krusty the Clown. Of course, there was that running thing in the writers' room back in the day where they were supposed to be the same person and Bart didn't know it. Of course, that easily
Yes.
got but I just love the idea of those two. Like they are such mirror images of each other, and and just the interactions are just so priceless. And then I love I love all the shenanigans with Krusty and Malibu Stacy, and
Mm-hmm.
and unlike you, I actually really do enjoy the Hank Azaria. Oh, this was switched to evil. I just think it's such a great
You get
punchline. I
this
don't know.
switch evil.
It is like it is a cop out for sure, but it's an iconic cop out.
Yeah, yeah, it's not. That's why it's something because it's not as bad as like some of the other ones. Like it's not like let me just think. There was a few episodes that like the Dracula episode that kind of ended like weird. Uh, the episode of the 50-foot eyesores attacking like the city, and then it just Like ends with them not looking at him with a weird song and stuff like. So it's not like the worst cop out there. But it's definitely it's not as bad. That's why I put it on the
Well, I
list.
mean,
As
I feel
the
like the
second
fact that
number
it
one.
is so clearly a cop out is obviously part of the joke. Whereas I feel like
Yeah.
in some of the examples you mentioned, it was mostly just like, oh shit, we don't really know how to end this, and we don't have a lot of time, so let's just BS something.
There's also a little bit that is kind of a thing to I think it's similar to it's a I think it's parodying a little bit of Chucky, like the scene where the mother flips the Chucky doll over and opens up to realize there's no batteries in it.
Uh huh.
And I think that's like it's kind of a reference to that and everything. So yeah, no, I like it. I think it's pretty good. And no problem with you having it as your what number two?
Yes.
Mm. Uh, my
Okay. So,
number
what is your
one.
number one, and why is it the Shinning?
Maybe I should talk about some honorable mentions. No, we can talk about that later. It is The Shining, and it's funny because I have not actually seen The Shining, but there is just so much good laughs, and it starts right at the beginning. It's like, well, it took us 3 days, but we're finally here. Did you forget to close the back door? It took us 3 more days, but we're finally here.
We forgot
I think you left the
Grandpa.
stove. No, because he's like, "Oh, did you turn off the stove? Oh no, we forgot Grandpa." And he just doesn't care. There's a lot of like funny lines with Mr. Burns in there. He's like, the blood normally gets off at the second floor. And then when they take all the beer and everything, there's that line it's like, we come back and everybody's murdered. I give you a Coke.
I owe you
I
a
owe you
Coke.
a Coke. But I didn't know until watching these all together, but that's almost a callback because he says that in one of the other episodes. He's like, "Well, if that's what happens, I owe you a Coke." I
He
think it's
does. He does.
episode
Yeah.
1 or 2 where he says that. So that's like a callback. And then there's just all the great scenes. My favorite, like this is one of the top 5 hardest I've ever laughed in my entire life is when he goes, "So what do you think, Marge? All I need is a title. I was thinking like no TV and no beer make Homer something. Go crazy? Not bad of a do! And then it's like breaking clay some crazy spouse or something like that. And there's like, get away from me. Give me the bat, Marge. Give me the bat. Come on. Give me the bat.
Give me the. And that's such a perfect parody of. I don't know if you've seen that scene from The Shining, but it's. I mean, it's spot on. Like the composition and the way it's shot. Just it's like it's right out of the movie.
Yeah, I haven't really seen like I kind of like I've seen it in passing in clips and stuff,
Uh
but no, I haven't seen this. But the like the moment where he makes a scary face and looks in the mirror and then just falls to the ground. The comedic timing on that scene is so funny. And then she throws him into the cellar, and then just that typical Marge like attitude, which is like, "You just stop here. You stay here until you're stop being crazy. Oh, chicken will be good tonight," and just takes him.
huh.
And but then of course when he like Mo being like oh with the ghouls is hilarious too. It's like, "Oh, I'm very happy. La, 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 la. Now go kill
I
your
love
friend."
how aggressive Mo is in this.
Me and the other ghouls here we're wondering what's the progress of making the killing family fun. Can't talk now. Eating. Oh, goodness sake. Uh, yeah, there's the line of with Bart, who all of a sudden has psychic powers out of nowhere. It's like with Willie's like, "But don't be calling on me between 8 and 9. That's time." That's great. And then of course he says here's Johnny, but he's in the wrong room, and he keeps on doing quotes and quotes until he gets the right room. That's that's
I
hilarious.
honestly
Hey,
think that
David, I'm
bit might be
Grandpa.
that bit might be one of the all-time best like comedy bits in all of the Simpsons. It's just so well
Yeah.
timed.
It's so funny, it's so good, There's not a wasted moment in that whole episode. Every scene goes to a funny moment and a good parody of it all. Then and then they finally get him the TV, and he's like, "Urge to kill, lowering, lowering, rising." Oh. And they freeze there on a bad show. He's like, "Urge to kill, rising."
Yeah, it's perfect.
It's perfect. It's
I
so
mean, the
good.
only
Like
reason it's not on my list is just because I knew that you would have it on your list, and I wanted to be a hipster and just kind of. But you know what's funny is that we both ended up having like 3 things on each other's list.
Well, I don't know. You have the Homer's cubed. We have the clown one. What's your number one?
My number 1 is The Devil and Homer Simpson.
Hey, there it is.
So yeah, 3.
Yeah, there's 3.
Yeah, this is just I just think the idea of Flanders being the devil is just such an iconic original idea. I feel like Devil Flanders is almost as much of a mascot of the Treehouse of Horror as Kang and Kodos
Yeah.
are.
Yep. Whenever
Um,
there's something like he's always in the background.
and yeah, I mean you hit it over the head. I think that I think this episode, like this segment, actually has like a really good 3-act structure to it, which not a ton of these Treehouse of Horror segments have, because you have the first act with Homer being tempted to eat the donut, and like soul donut. That whole thing, that's fun.
Yeah, I love how
Forbidden donut,
even though
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
donut that his soul is on the line, they still keep it in the fridge. Like, put it in a safe, bury it somewhere.
Right. Oh god. But then
And just
yes,
put
I
a
do
little
think
note
that
there, "Don't eat
the
that."
I think the sequence in hell might be like it's either that or like maybe the Land of Chocolate for like the most creatively animated segment in all of the Simpsons. I mean, it is just like it is up there with some of
The
the best
Simpsons
Looney
drew
Tunes
hell
animation.
a few times, but I think this is the best version of it.
Oh, totally,
Like
totally.
Bart goes to hell in an episode, but this is
Yeah,
like
that donut machine is just iconic, man. I feel like that donut machine is as iconic of a cartoon moment as anything in the Looney Tunes catalog. I really do. I mean, it's so freaking like it's just instantly just you just see it and you just I don't know, I'm going off about it like it's fine art, but it's classic. And then
it's
yeah, like you said, the courtroom. Go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead. I didn't really have anything.
Yeah, the courtroom. I think the courtroom stuff is probably like the weakest part of the episode, but it's still really good. It still has a really good, a really kind of sweet ending to it, and it ties everything up nicely. But yeah, like I said, I think my big thing with it is just how effective the Devil Flanders idea is. It's just such a such a classic concept, and and like I said, I think the actual hell stuff in this episode just cannot be beat as far as like the actual sheer visual spectacle within the show. I think that is just the peak of Simpsons animation.
And they make it make sense with just one line. It's like, huh? It's always the person you least suspect, and then you don't
Uh-huh.
question it. You're not like, oh, you're like that kind of makes sense.
And he does kind of have like that southern gentleman trickster vibe to him that some devils have.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
also like.
it's
There's that scene where he like goes on full devil, like when Homer's like, "I'm smarter than the devil," and then he goes like full. Or that animation is really good.
yeah,
But
yeah.
all right,
Well, this
were there any that were like close to being on? I almost put on Nightmare on Evergreen Terrace. I thought that had a few fun moments in that.
Yeah, that was
Uh,
definitely a solid contender. Like I said, Monkey's Paw, probably Terror at 5.5 feet as well.
yeah, that's a pretty good one.
Let's see. Hungry Are the Damned.
Battle Z for Zombies.
That
That
one's
had a lot of
good.
good ones.
I feel like the other two segments in the first Treehouse of Horror, besides the Raven, are both very interesting because they are super duper atmospheric. Like they don't have a ton of jokes to them, but both Nightmare House and Hungry Are the Damned both have just a ton of atmosphere, a ton of lighting that you don't really see anymore within the show. Just visually, they just have such a distinct vibe to them that's unlike anything else in the canon, I think.
Yeah, but the animation is also a little dated on them. The colors are very muted and don't. Uh, it's just like not as impressive. But there's like Bad Dream House's best moment is when the house is like, oh, either I live with the Simpsons or I implode on myself, and he just kills himself. That's pretty good.
Of course, Bad Dream House also gave us the first inclination of murderous psychopath Maggie.
There's a scene where Homer's like walking with an axe, and you just see Maggie crawling on the floor and like flop with like a knife.
Oh my god, that was an Itchy and Scratchy in March too, though. Now that I remember, they did the whole psycho parody with her and the mallet. All right.
Maggie, yeah, if Maggie doesn't turn up to be a hitman in the future, I don't know. I don't know what Simpsons was leading up to.
Okay.
But
Well,
yeah, no,
yeah.
there's so many good moments in in the show. It's just such a fun Halloween thing. Really gets you into the spooky mood, and it's the thing that I think is good. That is like it's always good for a laugh. Whenever you're going through there, you'll always have some sort of chuckle. I was watching the episode where like Kang and Kodos pretend to be the president and Bob Dole, and in that episode there wasn't a whole lot of laughs, but then like Homer kills the president and Bob Dole by accident, and then it's just like you can't help but laugh at that. I mean, like there's good moments that will have you laughing hysterically and stuff like that. So
Totally. Okay. All right. Well,
yeah,
I would like to thank Z and K Channel and Atomic Beast for coming on and being super engaged into the comments. You guys are great. Always love when we have a ton of engagement. And that's the end of tonight's spooky selections. But
make sure you put in the comments which ones are your favorite Simpsons Treehouse of Horror segments, and what are some of your favorite moments and gags from them as well. We would love to see it.
yeah, and as far as like worst goes, I mean, we would basically have to watch a lot of Treehouse of Horror to get that. But I don't know. I don't like then again, I know Evan is Joker's is currently watching through the entirety of the series. So if he can watch through
Yeah,
the entirety of the series, I can watch through
we'll have
like
to.
30 odd something episodes of Treehouse of Horror.
Yeah, I for me, out of all the episodes we saw, the one that I liked the least was Robo Homer because he takes Homer's brain out of his body, puts it in a computer robot, and then the robot just lays around, does nothing, and then they put it back in his body, and then episode's over. Basically, it's like he
That
doesn't
one has
terrorize the town,
approximately
doesn't
one
do
amazing
Frankenstein.
moment.
Oh yes, you're one of your favorite Mr. Burns
Yes.
moments.
Look at me, I'm Davy Crockett. That's
Yeah,
like
that
all
was
that
pretty good.
episode has, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the episode that has the "I owe you a Coke" or something like that. I think that
Oh,
was the one
yes,
that
it does. It does. You're right. You're right. All right.
but, in any case thanks for watching, everybody, and, yeah, let us know which one's yours, your favorite. We'd love to hear from you.
All right,
I got nothing
folks.
else. How about you?
No, I'm good. I'm good. All right, folks. That's the end of tonight's spooky selection. And our spirits grow weary. But they'll be stronger than ever next time as we engage in even more Haunted holiday hijinks. Look at me, I'm Davy Crockett.